I grew up here in St Albans. We moved here because my dad was working at the local hospital, so hospitals and healthcare were part of everyday conversation in our family. And if you read the Gospels, you notice how much time Jesus gave to those who were sick. There was a woman with a fever, a leper, a blind man, a paralyzed man, a woman with a wound that hadn't stopped bleeding for 12 years. These were ordinary people who needed his healing and his care. It's the same today. Sometimes people are healed of their sicknesses. It can happen in unexpected and even miraculous ways as an answer to prayer. More often, it comes about through our healthcare services and through the dedication of those who work within them. Modern medicine brings about its own miracles. But sometimes people have to carry the burden of sickness, and there is no cure. Jesus suffers with those who suffer, but he also wants to relieve their suffering through the kindness and compassion of those around them, family and friends, neighbours and carers, doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. Christians have an extra incentive to care for the sick because Jesus teaches that if we care for the sick, we are caring for him, and if we neglect the sick, we are neglecting him. It's no coincidence that the oldest hospital in London, St Bartholomew's, was founded 900 years ago by a Catholic monk after he made a vow to Christ. The healthcare tradition that many of us take for granted today has Christian foundations. One of the sacraments is called the anointing of the sick. In his New Testament letter, St James writes, "Is anyone among you sick? Let him call for the elders of the church and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord." And today, a Catholic priest will anoint those who are very sick or close to death, using olive oil that has been specially blessed by a bishop. This sacrament brings forgiveness. It helps the person to stay close to Jesus. It brings them consolation and peace, and it helps them offer up their sufferings to God for the good of others. And it can bring physical and mental healing to the sick person if it is God's will. If someone is close to death, it helps them to prepare for a happy death at peace with the Lord. And through the ministry of the priest, it allows those who are sick to receive the support of the church and to know that they are not alone or forgotten. Sickness is a terrible burden, but with the help of Christ, it is possible to bear. Those who are sick need our love and our personal help. They also need the spiritual help offered by the church. That's why the sacrament of the sick is such a gift. There are many other ways that we need healing as well. There can be, for example, painful memories or psychological wounds. There can be difficult relationships or tensions within a marriage or a family. We can struggle with jealousy, resentment, misunderstanding or anger, with bad habits or addictions, with unfulfilled dreams or frustrated ambitions, with an unwillingness to forgive. We can sometimes feel that life is without purpose or hope. Human life can be so beautiful, but there are many burdens as well. Jesus wants to bring help and healing to all these different situations. It doesn't mean he takes away all our problems like a magician, but he steps into our life. He gives us reassurance and hope, and he begins to put things right. And with time, he can transform a situation in ways we couldn't even imagine. We just need to ask him for his help and to give him permission. Prayer is so important. Sometimes it happens very quickly, almost miraculously. Something changes, something completely unexpected. Or sometimes it takes a lot of patience and trust on our part. But whatever the circumstances, whatever the difficulty, we must never doubt his ability to bring healing and hope. I once heard John Pridmore tell his story. He grew up in the East End of London. When he was 10, his parents separated and his world was turned upside down. He became very bitter and angry. He was in and out of prison. He got into drink, drugs, violence and crime. On the outside, his life was full of bravado, but on the inside, he was living in moral and spiritual darkness. The turning point came when he nearly killed a man in a fight in a West End nightclub. He was so frightened by the person he had become that he cried out to God in prayer. This is how he described that moment. As I said that prayer, the emptiness within my heart was filled with the love of God. I could not believe God could love someone like me with all the terrible things I had done, but he showed me that he loved me and accepted me. Throughout my life, I had felt useless. It didn't matter if I lived or died, but God showed me that it did matter because he loved me and created me. Soon after, John went to confession and found a peace and a healing that he had never known before. Jesus offers the same peace and healing to each one of us, even if our stories are not as dramatic as John's.